One of the most powerful elements of SharpCloud is the ability to filter items and relationships using attribute values, categories, or the tags assigned to them. In this video, we'll cover the three types of filtering: interactive filtering, formerly called quick filters, base filtering, formerly called the view filter, and enterprise filtering. All three filters are found in the View Setup window, which you can access by clicking directly on the View Setup button or by using the drop-down menu next to it. By default, only the interactive filter section is visible when we first click on the horizontal filter tab. Later, we'll bring more options into view using the advanced toggle. For now, let's start with interactive filters. Interactive filters appear as buttons at the bottom of the screen, which allow users to quickly bring items in and out of view based on category, attributes, or even their relationships to other items in a simple and engaging way. To start building these interactive filters into your view, click the Configure Labels button. From here, you can add standard filters like categories, item tags, and owners, as well as custom filters based on attributes. For this example, let's select categories and item tags and add an attribute filter based on impact. Once an interactive filter is set, you'll see a select link appear next to it that will allow you to further refine what should be included as labels on the interactive filter bar. For example, if a category is critical to your view, you may want to deselect that when configuring your labels so a viewer can't filter items from that category out. Similarly, if a certain category doesn't apply to the current view, you might deselect it to avoid confusion. A powerful function you can also perform in interactive filters is filtering items based on their relationships. By selecting a category of items here, such as trends and drivers, all the items from the trends and drivers category become our labels. When we click a filter button representing one of these items, we'll see that item plus the items that are directly related to it. Similar to item filtering, we can also determine which relationship lines appear on our view. Add a relationship filter based on tags, type, or any other relationship attribute that appears in the drop-down here. For our example, we'll activate relationship filters for relationship strength. Once our work is saved, we can start using our new interactive filters to bring items into and out of the view. Use the checkboxes to activate multiple filters at once, or click on a single button's name to show only items for that filter. You've probably noticed that interactive filters can alter the structure of the view, so when we filter out a category in this layer view, the swim lane also disappears. While it's great to give your story's viewers some control over their viewing experience, you may want to set up certain interactive filters to be on or off by default for a particular view. We can do this one of two ways. The simplest way is to set your interactive filters to create the view you want, and then choose Save Changes from the drop-down View menu. The same can be accomplished through the Define Filter button, which you see now reflects the defaults we set with our interactive filters. This area is also useful, though, for filtering on item properties that aren't part of your interactive filters. Here, for instance, we might filter out low and medium impact items so that these items are hidden by default. You can pin the interactive filters to the view so there's no overlap at all with the axes, or you can leave them unpinned and bring them up only when they're needed. You can reset the filters, returning the view to its last saved configuration, or you can clear by using the drop-up function, which clears all the interactive filters, including those set as default for the view. It's worth noting that there are some limitations to what you can do with interactive filters. For example, let's imagine that on this view we wanted to see all of our products regardless of priority value, but only technologies with a high or critical priority value. There's no way to indicate this with interactive filters, as unchecking the low and medium priority boxes to filter out those technologies will also remove some of our products. Also, any filters we set by default can be cleared by a viewer, so if we wanted to prevent a certain set of items from ever being shown, we'd be out of luck. Base filtering, which we'll cover next, would help us accomplish both these things. The base filter's primary use is to exclude items that you never wish to appear on the view, allowing you to create a view with the defined set of items. Unlike interactive filters, base filters don't alter the structure of your view. Your rows and columns will remain in sight with only the items disappearing. To access the base filter, make sure the advanced toggle is active and click the Define Filters button. You'll quickly notice that we now have the ability to have more than one filter query. Unlike interactive filters, which would exclude or include entire groups of items based on a single property, you can now build multiple queries up to create more nuanced subsets of these groups. Remember our earlier example where we wanted to see all products regardless of priority, but only those technologies with a high or critical priority? With base filtering, we can set our first filter to just include products, which will keep all products in view unless we adjust other criteria from this list. In our second filter query, we can select only technologies and uncheck the low and medium options under priority. We could also filter out certain types of relationships here. You can layer up as many filter queries as required to achieve the desired set of items and relationships in your view. The final point to mention about the base filter is the ability to create a related to filter, just like the function in the interactive filter where you could select to display a set of items based on a common item they were related to. The last type of filter you can employ in SharpCloud is the enterprise filter. This filter is only relevant if your story is part of an enterprise solution. While interactive and base filtering reduce the number of items or relationships displayed on a view, the enterprise filter adds items to a story temporarily. Enterprise solutions are sets of stories working together, sharing a common data structure and allowing for select categories, attributes, and tags to be common across multiple stories. The enterprise filter will only ever affect the items and relationships being actively filtered into the current story, and will not affect the items that already exist in that story either locally or because they were inherited or shared as part of the enterprise structure. Imagine this filter as topping up your story with additional items from other stories. When filtering in an enterprise solution, we first need to allow items to appear in this story from other stories by checking this box. You'll notice that as we've progressed through the three types of filters, SharpCloud is keeping a tally, showing us how many items are available or visible based on the filters we've set. Here you can see that by allowing items in from other stories, we've increased the count of available items. Next, we're ready to define our filter by setting up parameters that will determine which items from which stories are visible in our view. By defining the filter, you can set the parameters up for the enterprise filter, including which stories the item can come from. You can either manually select the stories you wish to have the items come from, or you can use story-level attributes and create a filter here. After selecting the story or stories items can come from, we can use any combination of attributes to further determine which items will be brought into the view. For this first filter, let's imagine we only want to see items from our selected story that have an impact attribute value of medium, high, or critical. If we stop here, only items that meet this criteria and come from the story we selected will be shown on this view. However, we can create several filters at once, so let's also create a filter bringing items in from another story with an impact attribute value of low. Now we'll see items that fit these parameters in addition to those pulled in by the first filter. We can continue creating filters until all the items we want to show are included. That covers the basics of filtering in SharpCloud. As you begin to incorporate these powerful features into your own stories, be sure to let us know how we can support you. We are always available to help at training@sharpcloud.com.